In the past 3 years, more than 10,000 men, women and children have died trying to cross this stretch of water.
Hundreds upon hundreds of Congolese immigrants being dropped off in San Antonio after crossing the border. Asylum seekers, who are primarily from African countries, make up 90% of the people living in the city-run shelters.
The European Union says the migration crisis is over, but on the Greek island of Samos, the crisis is far from over.
As many as 4,000 live behind and outside the barbed wire above Samos's main town, Vathi.
More than 200 African migrants have scaled the border fence into the Spanish enclave of Melilla. It's the biggest assault on the border in more than 8 years.
The capacity of this ship is 150 people. We are currently carrying about 400 souls.
Most are African.
While we are all too familiar with these harrowing images, what if there's another, less obvious story, and one that's not making the headlines?
We recognize that without a clear understanding of migration, negative and inaccurate narratives surround African migrants and migration. These narratives lead to misperceptions about the scale of migration and its effects, thereby creating misleading stereotypes and dangerous mythology which hinder Africa's development.
Of movement within and from the continent, the majority of migration is intra-African, moving from one African country to another. Yet, this striking data counters the dominant narrative and rarely makes the news.
There's a need to demystify migration on the continent, to correct the dominant narrative regarding migration from Africa. Dangerous maritime journeys such as those across the Mediterranean represent only a minority of migration. Unfortunately, they distract disproportionately media attention because of the risky nature and tragic outcomes with loss of lives. A human tragedy is unfolding in the Mediterranean. But if we take a close look at a long-term trend, we see that the majority of African migrants within the continent originated from countries within the same sub-region.
The High-Level Panel on Migration in Africa was established as a response to a joint resolution of the Economic Commission for Africa and the African Union Commission to support policy dialogues with an African perspective. In doing so, the panel is offering a unique perspective on migration in and from the continent through the use of solid data. The panel moves away from the skewed narratives and presents a vision of African migration as one that is centered on opportunity.
The High-Level Panel on Migration was established in 2016. The panel comprises 15 eminent persons, including representatives of government and from all continents, with an interest in advocating for safe, orderly, and regular migration in Africa for Africa's development. The HLPM, as we call it, hopes to energize African states into faster ratification of protocols and agreements on free movement of people in order to achieve its objectives. It is expected that the work of the high-level panel will help focus attention on the important issues of international migration in Africa.
But skeptics will ask, is there such a thing as positive migration? And how exactly can it empower people? First, migration can only be empowering if it is based on a real choice, either to go or to stay. The most effective way to prevent irregular migration and smuggling is to create regular pathways and circulation for mobility and migratory routes. Proposed by the panel, when implemented, there are 7 critical action points. The action points relate to free movement of persons, integrating established migrant populations, advocating improved access to rights for African migrants, boosting the capacity for research, analysis and education, best practices in promoting and protecting the human rights of female migrants, strengthening partnerships and collaboration, and investing in skills development and facilitating mutual recognition. As Africa is one of the youngest continents on the planet, inevitably there will always be members of the population who will seek opportunities abroad. Migration in this context must be viewed as an intrinsic and largely inevitable part of the cycle of development, rather than a dilemma. The key objective of the high-level panel on migration and global compact is to see if migration can be streamlined and to ensure the potential of migration to contribute to development and regional integration on the continent.
Can this migration be made safe, regular, and orderly? This is what the Global Compact on Migration, the negotiations on which are reaching a conclusion, aims to achieve. African member states have spoken with one voice during the various rounds of deliberation on the Global Compact, and the high-level panel has supported the technical inputs of the African member states in these deliberations. With the negotiations of the Global Compact reaching conclusion, the need now is to support the implementation of the key elements of the Global Compact in African member states. Migration and human mobility are strongly linked with the movement of goods and services. In addition to the free movement of capital, trade and development strategies require the free movement across national boundaries to be able to explore opportunities and benefits. Also, free movement of labor allows for the operational utilization of human capital as skills go to regions, industries, and countries where they command the highest value. Regional integration is a key pathway to development and labor mobility, as it usually accompanies other forms of economic engagement. The African Continental Free Trade Area, signed recently by 44 member states, and the African Union Protocol on Free Movement of Persons are key for regional integration and labor mobility on the continent.
Increased visa openness and migrant-friendly policies allow migrants to play a significant socio- and economic role in their host countries, and in turn, foster a dynamic, contributory diaspora. Some countries on the continent have gone even a step further and are leaders in embracing the most vulnerable migrants, rather than criminalizing or turning individuals away. The vision contained in the report of the High-Level Panel on Migration does not ignore the aspirations of Africans. Indeed, increased regular migration from Africa to Europe, North America, and other destinations is inevitable, even under the scenarios of strong economic growth and political stability in Africa. Yet, by 2050, 1 in every 4 workers in the world will be African. Economic growth, increasing education, and infrastructure development will increase capabilities and aspirations to migrate. African migration is therefore about the opportunities and the potential for new generations of aspiring African migrants to find a future in other African countries. This will serve to dispel the notion that a substantial share of Africans today and in the future will seek migration opportunities only outside the continent.